All right. So talk to me. What can I support you on?
So I just had a few questions I've been kind of pondering. So I found you probably a week or two before I emailed you because I've been kind of going through them, listening to them whenever I have time, and
Yep.
so I may or may not have found you may have already talked about some of the stuff in your prior podcast.
But
One thing I kind of wanted to go over was how did you so what do you go about, so when you first started out you said that you talk about a lot about beer money and pizza and paying your guys with just food and beer pretty much at the beginning. At some point you transitioned to actually paying guys. What, obviously we're in different areas, but what kind of rates do you pay your guys?
well, I mean, yeah. So the transition came because I decided to have a no shit big boy business. So the beer and pizza, cigarette money was for a couple of years when we were farting around, and I used my brother and his buddies and whatever. We made that happen. But then once I decided, okay, I want a legit business, I got back from the deployment and I decided now it's time to have a legit business. And that's a significant point, and I don't want to brush over that because you've got to plant your flag. There's a lot of guys that come on this podcast, or even I talked to someone recently. He's like, hey, like, at what point do I get insurance? How often do I just like side hustle it? And I'm like, hey man, you can side hustle as long as you want, but the longer you side hustle, you're not building a business, you're just side hustling, right? If you're looking to make quick cash, side hustle, right? But if you're actually looking to build a business, do it right from day one. So I want to preach that because I had a side hustle mentality for years, and it wasn't until I got serious that people took me serious. And so that has to be acknowledged. Second thing, when you pay guys, it ranges. Typically right now in the market, you're looking $15 an hour minimum for a laborer, and $18 to $20 an hour for someone that can drive. Our guys, our entry level guys start at 15, $16 an hour, 18 if they have a license, and then our more senior guys are making 24, $25 an hour right now. But 18 months ago, coming out of the pandemic, for example, I don't think we had a single employee over $20 an hour, 2021. And when we first started back in 2016, guys started at $10 to $12 an hour, 13 to 15 if they could drive. So labor has absolutely increased over the last couple of years, but I mean, that's inflation. That's some of it was catch up, right? I don't do the whole blocking bullshit when it comes to minimum wage because you shouldn't have a minimum wage mindset. And I think it's stupid when people are doing the fight for 15. You got to step up your game and step up your skills, and that's be consistent with the work you're doing. But there was some right sizing that has happened in the market with what people are being paid. But I think it's also peaked because now I can get guys, for a little bit there, I couldn't touch a guy for under $20 an hour if they had a license. Now I'm back to about $18 an hour. But because the hyperinflation that we saw earlier in 2022, now that we're in Q4, it's already tiered out. Right now I can get guys at $18 to $20 an hour to come in and be drivers on a temporary or permanent basis.
How are you finding your guys?
Temp to hire. Temp to hire has been great for us this year. I had done it in the past. One of our best guys we ever had, we did a temp to hire job. This was back in 2017, June of 17. His name is Jerome. I talk about Jerome often. We had 10 temps. He's the only one that made it the 17 days of the project required, and we offered him a job. This year, the first 6 months of the year, we spent about 10 grand on Indeed to get one halfway decent candidate that made it almost 6 months. Since then, I've done only temp to hire. That's it.
It's like
whether they work.
It's a website.
What's that?
It's a website.
No, temp to hire. No. Temp to hire. No, you go to a temp agency. So there's tons of them. Everything from Manpower to Labor Ready. Tons of temp agencies out there. So that's where we've gone. We've gone to temp agencies. And the reason is if the worst case scenario is they suck, you send them home, right? They do half of what you need them to do for the day, you send them home. So our hiring process now is if we need laborers, we typically wait till we have a bigger job. And, if it normally be like a 3 or 4 man team for us, we'll throw 5 bodies, 6 bodies at it, right? So we'll have like 2 or 3 of our guys and we'll bring in 2 or 3 temps. and we let the fucking temps duke it out basically, right? And if they're good enough to get asked back the next day, we bring them back. And if they're better than someone we have on our current team, we have no problem, right? We're consistently, drafting, if you will, draft develop, and also look at your depth chart. If I have a guy that comes in day one and is better than our worst guy, I can take hours away from our worst guy. So that's what we've been doing on the junk removal specialist, the entry level guys. As far as the drivers, we found a different temp agency that does driver hire, which isn't very typical. The challenge with that is typically if it's a driver, they want to just drive. So they're more like route drivers, delivery drivers, less junk removal guys. So we have some commercial projects where there's a lot of driving involved. So the latest group of guys, we got 5 guys. We needed 4, whatever. So we brought in 5 guys over about a 6-week period. One guy's good. He's doing driving for us on a commercial project we got. One guy was older, which is, you'll get that with the driver types. And even a job that wasn't very physically demanding, he couldn't handle. And he did something like tore a muscle or something outside of work. So he naturally went away. And of the other 3 guys, one of them was like, hey, man, I'm looking to do anything. I think this junk removal thing is cool. It's interesting. I want to get more involved. I'll do whatever. So now his stock has risen because now there's more opportunities for him because he's willing to do more. And the other 2 guys, one for sure is like, nope, I'm only here to drive. I don't want to do anything else. Well, it's like, okay, well then, unless I have a job that's very much commercial-based route driving, which is outside junk removal, that's not a good fit. And the other guy is on the fence. He's like, yeah, I'll try anything, but we're not sure how true that is. So best thing you can do, from what I've seen, is be honest with the guys about what the work is, bring them in as temps. If you're going to pay the conversion or pay the temp agency, I was completely against that for years. But the amount of time, money, and effort I got to put in otherwise to find good guys is a pain in the ass. I like the fact I can send somebody home, call the agency, and get a new body. Like that, the amount of time and effort I save is worth the money I spend.
Yeah, so that's one thing I've been kind of struggling to. And I told you I'm a DC police officer, so
Yep.
I'd like to transition into this being my full time. I'm done with the department. It's trash. So that's one thing I'm struggling with is I'm pretty much just hiring people that I work with, and I'm paying them a premium to come out and help me with these jobs because I know it's reliable. I know they're good. I know they're not gonna dick around.
But you can pay. What are you paying? $25 an hour, $25 an hour, or what are you paying them?
I was actually paying closer to 50, or I would do if it's one guy and if I knew I had a couple jobs lined up, I would actually just pay him closer to half of closer to the half range of the job. And obviously I have the expenses, so I'd take a bigger portion. But
you gotta get.
I've noticed that's way too much because I'm actually
it's unsustainable.
Yeah,
it's unsustainable. So the hillbilly math of it is you got to get 3 times the value of the guy, right? So what that means is, let's say your truck is running at $200 an hour. Just going to use some hillbilly math here, right? If your truck runs at $200 an hour, right? You got 2 guys, right? Follow the bouncy ball here. He is billable at $100 an hour, which means you can only pay him $33 an hour max because you're also billable at $33 an hour. So basically you set aside I'll even say $30 an hour. That's what he's, right? This is the hillbilly math. You got 1/3 to pay his wage, or 30%. Let's put it this way. You got 30% to pay his wage. You got 30% to cover your fixed costs right off the bat. You got built-in 10% profit, and you have 30% reinvestment in the business. That's it, right? And that 30% reinvestment in the business is it's a lot, right? Because you got your marketing comes out of there, your advertising. There's some guys that are first started in junk removal. They're spending 20-25% of their revenue to get the next job, which is not crazy. Industry average is about 8 to 10%, maybe more. I like to keep it under 10%, but I got to spend 10% to get jobs. I need now money to buy equipment, rent equipment, buy uniforms, right? There's all these other expenses that aren't necessarily fixed expenses, but they're investments. You have some things that are straight up expenses. Fuel is a straight up expense, right? Insurance, rent, those are straight up expenses. And then there's things that are investments. And so if you're paying them 50, right? So let's say you were paying them 50, right? Or you're you said it's 1.5 after expenses. So you're probably running what, $120 an hour. So you're keeping 20 aside for your fixed expenses, your fuel and shit like that. You're paying yourself $50 an hour. You're paying him $50 an hour. That's it. All the money's gone. Now there's $0 to invest and there's $0 of profit. And now you can say, oh no, I'm just not going to pay myself. Well, if you don't start paying yourself from day one, you'll never get in the habit of paying yourself. And now you're worthless to the company because you're not paying yourself. So $30 an hour is about the max, even on, and that's not crazy to think $30 an hour, but on a temp laborer, right? If you're paying a temp laborer $20 an hour and they have a 50% markup, your cost is $30 an hour, right? The employee gets 20, the temp agency gets 10, and that's how temp labor works. I'd rather pay that though, $30 an hour, guaranteed to have someone that can do what you need them to do, than pay $50 to your fucking buddy.
Yep.
That's just math. And then the goal is you hire a good temp laborer at $20, $22 an hour, 25, whatever, that is so good that they could eventually run your truck after 6 months of training. But that's the progression. Your first hire is your most important hire. If your first hire is capped out at, junk removal specialist, for example, no license, no ambition, no leadership, you will never promote yourself out of that position, right? You're going to be a street cop, beat cop the rest of your life. You'll never make sergeant, lieutenant, captain, right? Because the person you're surrounding yourself with is only capable of that. And if I'm thankfully, the first person I worked with was my brother, right? So that was a simple one. And he was my business partner. Our first employee, his name was George. We're like, man, this guy's going to take the business over. And that's how we treated him from day one. There's only 3 of us. He got more knowledge than anybody else has ever gotten because he was learning it as we went. Now he ended up leaving. So the next guy up, these 2 brothers, Joe and Josh, they got all this knowledge. But now when we hire guys, it's like they don't get that entry level knowledge. They didn't learn with the owner. They're just told, hey, here's your uniform. Here's how we do things. So they didn't have that. They didn't gain all that knowledge by learning. And now I look back, I got a half a dozen guys that have been here for 5 years, 5 or 6 years. The depth of knowledge they have is astronomical because they remember what it was like when we were back in the backyard, right? So we call them the OGs. So it's Jerome, Tommy, Ian are basically the 3 main OGs, and then Ryan's kind of an OG, whatever. So I got 4 guys that have been with us over 5 years. We've been in this building for 5 years. They remember the backyard. Oh, this other guy, Steve. But it's like when the OGs talk, they remember what it was like in the backyard. And that was a huge difference because they knew how we used to do jobs when we didn't have a warehouse. We didn't have the right equipment. We didn't have good trucks. There's a lot of organic, osmosis that happens. We don't have shit. And I've also seen the other way. I used to have 10 franchises across the country. When you give people all the nice shit day one, they have no fucking clue how to figure it out because they never had to learn how to figure it out. And that's a problem, right? I mean, do without and you'll learn a lot, right? Necessity is the mother of all invention. So
how would you that's one thing. So I mean, even just because I'll line up a couple of jobs in my days off, and obviously I can't go just randomly grab somebody and like, hey, can I pay you for a few, just for a few hours or whatever. So that's why most of the time I'm paying my friends because they're easy to grab up versus trying to, hire somebody for, 3 jobs in one day or whatever. So, I think ultimately it's going to be about quitting and, trying to make.
Yeah, 100%. But I would start right now figure out which temp agencies are good or bad. You don't learn anything by hiring your buddies. I mean, you might learn how to bang jobs.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on. I'm going to call. Let me see what this is real quick. Spammers. That's the other issue when you become a business owner. You don't know which one. This is from a business I owned 4 years ago. 2018, yeah, 4 years ago. But rarely do they get rarely do they get my number. If it was the company number, they fucking call shit all the time. But rarely do they have my number. So good on them. They found me.
I'm like, hey, maybe because I answer all the calls because you never know who is
right.
going to call.
Exactly. And it was a 414 number. So I'm like, man, there's some people that still have like our old cards that had my own personal number on them. And so I still pick up every now. I still pick up every phone call just because you never know. And it didn't show up as spam, so whatever. Yeah, so here's the thing. Do you have an LLC right now or not? Or are you just banging it on the side?
No, so I started out because I knew ultimately when I saw this like concept of junk removal, I was like, oh yeah, I love that. So I started and I created my name. I got my business. I got my business insurance. I bought a truck. So and that's one of the, I was listening to one of your podcasts the other day. You said it's not a mistake, it's a choice. So that's one of the dumb choices I made was starting out, I got a 1500. So now I'm having to upgrade because this little 1500 is pulling I got a 7x14 utility trailer, which was another bad choice, but whatever. I put 5 feet walls on each side. So, I could fit a good bit of stuff in there, but I'm pulling it with a 1500.
Yeah. That's a lot of weight on a little body.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Yeah, but so now I'm trying to figure out, would you think a 2500 would be good or should I go to a 35?
No, we run 2500s. There's guys that would run. Yeah. So like Casey and I both believe in getting the 3/4. If you're going to go pick up truck, 3/4 ton is going to do what it does. I got another customer I consult with down in, they're down in Tennessee and they do a lot of demo work. And they justified a 3500 because they can put a gooseneck trailer on it and pull skid steers and lifts and some other stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay, fine. And then afterwards, they're like, yeah, that was overkill, right? Like they're not pulling that stuff so often that it makes sense, right? If you're pulling a triaxle trailer or you're pulling a fucking trailer that has dumpsters on it, okay, get the 3500 or 350, whatever, right? The 1 ton. The average junk removal guy that wants to pull a 16 cubic yard dump trailer will be happy with a 2500, 250, 3/4 ton truck.
Okay. Yeah. So, I was thinking about the 3500 because it'd be nice to grow it because ultimately I would like to get dumpsters at some point, but I think that's too far down the line. I think 2500 might be.
Yeah, you know what? Also, you got to remember that first or second truck, right? Those are going to turn into, as you scale, those are going to slowly turn into like your sales vehicle. I started with a Jeep. I started straight up with a Jeep. And then we had this 3500, or it was a Ford F-350 Ecoline van, purple, that we would pull to jobs in, fucking hood as shit. And that was the van I had prior. So I had the 3500, but I never needed it. But then we bought a Hummer. So we went from Jeep to a Hummer to a 1500 truck. And then we finally got the 2500. Ford F-250, and I don't give a shit about brands. It's just the Ford was what we went with. Ever since then, we haven't gone less than a 250. Now we also got the 40. If you go by the unibodies, the NPRs, they're typically on that Chevy 4500 chassis, and that's fine if you go up to like 18 cubic yards. So it's like a 14.3 or a 17.7. We got a 24 cubic yard box on a 4500, tip body, and that's a lot of fun to wait. We beat the shit out of that fucking chassis. We also got 18-foot van trucks on the 4500 chassis, and we beat those up. So we're getting like moving forward. We're probably going to do 5500 and bigger on the box trucks, and we typically run box trucks. Our pickup trucks now are good. But 6 months out of the year, we got snow on the ground and we unload everything by hand. So just the way our junk removal company works, we almost only use box trucks now and dump trucks or dump trailers. So even our utility trailers, we're not using that often. It's a afterthought typically, which is good, fine. It is what it is.
Yeah, I would obviously the NPR that would be nice to go to, but I see that as years, like you said, years down right now. Just
and Casey hates them. Like Are you in the DC metro area, or where is your business going to be?
Yeah, DC metro. So, Maryland and Virginia be no problem, but running through DC with a truck like that is a pain because the alleys and streets are narrow and trying to park.
You're saying your pickup truck and trailer, you couldn't get it. Well, I would almost think the NPR would be better for those urban areas because the total length.
I mean, there's been some alleys where I had to go into with my little 1500, and it was like I was, barely skimming the sides. So.
Yeah, but the NPRs aren't that wide. So, like, I know, like in the Philadelphia market, they love the NPRs. Up in Albany, they love the NPRs. So a lot of the older cities, they like those unibody trucks.
Yeah.
Down south, they use them often. Casey doesn't like them in particular. They don't have, he's out in Texas. They got plenty of fucking space, so the NPRs don't do any good. And I don't love them in the winter because I don't have 4-wheel drive. But rarely is it like a game changer where it stops us. Now, when we had a 1500 truck without 4-wheel drive and a trailer, that was a fucking game changer because now you can't fucking push that trailer going backwards where you need it.
Yep.
So for the most part, the NPRs can handle it. I mean, we're not going off road. And again, it snows here, 8-10 times a year. Within 24 hours, it's all fucking cleaned up. So again, not an end all be all.
So what has been your most, because I listened to your marketing one recently. What has been your biggest, your best marketing tactic? Because so me not having a whole lot of time to market because I already work 40 hours a week, I was relying on Yelp, and I made the choice of going with Angie's ads, and I had to get out of them, and of course I had to pay.
Correct. I fucking despise all lead gen everything. So whether it's Angie's, Thumbtack, Nextdoor, Hometown, Local, whatever it is, bullshit. I used to be a huge Thumbtack guy. Thumbtack was awesome, and I was paying about $20 to $24 a lead, and then they changed their way of doing business on January 1st of 2018, and I literally went from $20 to $24 a blended average a lead to $80 a lead. And when your average job at the time was about $300, $250, $300, I can't be paying 1/3 to 1/4 right off the bat per lead. Right. So again, that was a blended average. So the leads were costing about $20 a piece, but I was only landing 1/4 of them. Right. So blended average was $80. So if you want to say ads wise, let's talk marketing and advertising. Those are two very different things. Right. So marketing is your brand, your promotional material, how you're represented, your website, all that shit. Advertising is, okay, I have this thing, I'm gonna dump fire on it. That's all advertising is, right? Like a billboard or an ad in a print magazine or Google AdWords all drive to the website, the promotional material, the fucking whatever, right? So advertising is just dollars so more people see this. So let's break that down, marketing versus advertising. First off, marketing, you gotta have a strong brand that differentiates you from the competition, right? And what's your value proposition, right? So for us, it's real simple, right? First, we're veterans, right? People love helping vets. We're environmentally responsible, and we're local. That's it. Those are the three value props. Everything goes around there, right? So for local, we talk about our Camo Crew cares about the community initiatives. So we got three initiatives: empowerment, education, and environment. My brain wasn't working, right? So we talk about those. When it comes to the environmental responsibility, obviously I put on content, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, or the podcast, talking about how to recycle more, reuse more, repurpose more, right? So we double down on that. And then as far as being a veteran, being veteran owned, we do things in a certain way. We know that, right? I'm still an active reservist. I'm a military vet. We hire veterans. So we got a lot to talk about. So now I got all that content from a marketing standpoint I can talk about. And not once now have I talked about junk removal, because that's what we all do, right? Doing junk removal is not a differentiator, right? It's a category of the industry you're in. Fine, good, got it, Blake, beautiful. Now let's take advertising dollars and dump it on these things. So now that's when you have your Google AdWords, your boosted posts, your billboards, radio commercials, right? The big three is TV, radio, outdoor. Those are the old historical big three. But then the new three, right, is or not new three, but other three things are your pay-per-click, your Google AdWords, which is also a pay-per-click, but it's different because it's so important. It's its own category. And then I'll say boosted social media. Historically, with Junkable, that's Facebook, right? And so where do you put your dollars there? You got to let your market decide that. And you got to let the market decide that by putting money into those three buckets. I typically recommend pick 10 targets, spend between $250 and $500 on each target to run a test, right? So of your 10, right, you'll have 2 or 3 Google AdWords campaigns, 2 or 3 Facebook boosted ads or straight up ads, right? There's a difference between a boosted post versus a straight up ad, right? 2 or 3 different pay-per-click things, website banners and what blended shit like that, right? And then dabble in the other stuff, right? And you're not going to run them all at once. You got to run them in series, right? You might also throw in their yard signs, right? You talk about outdoor, the traditional big 3 outdoor yard signs. So you can get yard signs for $2.50, $2.75 a piece, and you buy 100 of them. Go put them out and see what happens, right? So you spend $250 in yard signs, or you put $250 towards boosted posts on Facebook and see what your market responds to. Now you say, what's been number one for us? Google AdWords is huge. Casey spent his 5 years in his business, not spent $1 on Google AdWords. So who the fuck am I? You know what I'm saying? Now, one thing that I will say is number one now on the marketing side of things, not advertising, realtor referrals. That's it. Go into realtors' offices, introduce yourself, bring them fucking donuts, do sales presentations, tell them who you are, what you do, and how you serve the community. Referral base, I'm looking at my numbers right now. I'm scrolling. Content's unavailable. Let me go back to last month. So I don't have last month's. Okay, so here we go. 1/4 of my business came from online. So Facebook's 5%, Nextdoor was 1%, Google Ads 19%. Right, that was from last. Actually, I'm gonna give you a quarter. I'm gonna give you 90 days, rolling 90 days. So almost the exact same. 5% Facebook, 2% Nextdoor, 16% Google. So the Nextdoor we don't pay for. That's just our role, whatever. That's just being active on Nextdoor. Got it. All right. Referrals blended average was right 26%. We'll say. Let me say 3 and 26%, 27% of our referrals, right? And then from there, trust visibility 18%, 18.5%. Existing customers were 7%. Networking was 5%, media was 5%, right? So because we track where it's coming from, we figure it out. That's as simple as I can make it.
A CRM or a spreadsheet that you have?
I'll look at my KPIs, my key performance indicators.
Okay.
So we also had a big bunch in there that were not gathered, so that throws off my numbers. Of actual closed business, just over 25% was online. Just over 30% is referrals. 20% is trucks. That's our top 3. 10% existing, roughly 10% between networking and media. So that's media being TV. So you got to do it for 90 days and track the results. And I'm not a fucking marketing guy, right? I teach 6 buckets of business. Of the 6 buckets of business, marketing is number 5 for me. It's not a natural fit or strength of mine, but I'm an operations guy, so I'm all about, put it out there and see what happens. And then from there, from once you put it out there and you'll see what happens, you'll track it and then make decisions, right? And now it's all about data-driven decisions. I talk about that. I don't make, right? You talked earlier about making choices and use the word mistakes. I hate the fucking word mistakes, right? We make choices, right? But the choices, now let's evolve the thought to data-driven decisions. So for example, you just said, hey, I hired my buddies at $50 an hour, right? That was a choice.
Yep.
Well, now you have some data. Your next data-driven decision is to not hire your buddies at $50 an hour. So either means you got to hire your buddies at a lower dollar an hour, and you're like, oh shit, they won't work for $25 an hour. Cool. Who will? Right? And that's not a rhetorical fucking question. And that's how you run business. The challenge with a lot of people in this hustle and other hustles is like they get stuck in a way that they're not making these data-driven decisions. They're making choices because they're pulling shit out the air. Same with you. You just said, hey, had I listened to the podcast earlier, maybe I would have gone with a 2500 or a dump trailer or a unibody or something, right? You didn't have the data. So you made a choice with insufficient data. So, it's that old adage like fucking Abraham Lincoln had 8 hours to cut down a tree, right? He spent 6 hours sharpening the axe. Same thing here, right? You got some data, but where can you collect more data so that when you make a decision, it's with the most data available? And reaching out to me, listen to the podcast, it's a great start. Get out of YouTube, all these things. And that's why, we put out the content for free because we want other junk removal companies to go out and be really successful, right? I don't want to see more franchises taken over because I'm anti fucking big corporations. So if I'm anti big corporations, that means I'm for small business. I'm team small fucking business. But I'm also team business, small business doing it right, because in junk removal, the level of professionalism isn't there everywhere. It's a fact. You got fucking Chuck on the truck coming off Craigslist who's picking shit up and fucking dumping it in alleys, or or fucking mixing fucking e-waste in on their fucking landfill runs. That's unacceptable. So the best way to combat those individuals is to educate other junk removal companies, right? If Chuck in a truck doesn't know any better, well, here's fucking free education. Step up your game, right? Step up or step out. And then also educate the consumer on what they should expect from a professional junk removal company by raising the fucking bar. It's that simple. Fucking coffee's cold. Son of a bitch.
Yeah, same here. No, so I actually, one of my biggest jobs recently was a hoarder clean out. And when I was doing that, I'm like, this is, I want to do more of this. So I've already made the decision that this week I was going to go out and do some realtor marketing, because it was actually from a realtor. I worked for one realtor, and then she referred me to another one. So that was it. So I need to go back to more realtors, because especially since the one that gave me the big job, she said that because of COVID, that a lot of people opted out of paying their mortgages, and now they're having to pay that back. There's a lot of short sales. There's people just leaving.
There was 18 to 24 months there where you couldn't fucking prosecute people, right? Like, so yeah, no, I've seen more in 2022. I've seen more hoarding house, probate, bullshit jobs than any other year, because exactly right. The moratorium, it just right. So there's the same number of people losing their houses. It's just they're all backlogged, so now they're hitting the market, at a similar time. And also with the real estate market, there was a lot of families that were dragging their feet, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, prices can't be fucking higher. So now they're finally making the decision. But now, I mean, we're recording this here the first week of December. The real estate market has already turned. It's already slowed down, and there's multiple factors behind that. Interest rates going up, less inventory, less demand from consumer with the recession that we're in. Fuck the speculation. We're in a goddamn recession with inflation. So now buyers are, the buyers they're buyer fatigue. So now real estate has already turned. So we'll still see. We'll see the markets and the foreclosures. I don't think we're going to see as many of the ones where the families are, then dragging their feet and holding out for the top dollar. Most of those have gone away. Obviously, there's always going to be more, but as a trend, we're not going to see as many.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of want to get out there and market more, because to be ready for that next turn. Because I mean, like you said, it's all about ups and downs. So whenever there is another, bulk of them like that, I would like to have my name out there already.
Yeah, here's the hillbilly math of it. 40% of our transactions revolve around real estate. 40% revolve around life events, i.e., got a new furniture, kids moving in, kids moving out, getting our floors redone, something significant, right? And 20% are because we're sick of looking at the pile, right? They're not moving, they're not looking to move. They're just like, yep, it's time. Like we take out tree houses and sheds and things like that. It's like, those are life events. Typically, like a tree house, for example. Yeah, the kids are fucking grown. They don't need any more. We're getting a new shed, right? Like things like that. You're like, oh, that is a life event, right? We're not like, often it's not, oh, just take the shed down to take it down. It's either you're selling or you're getting a new shed. Or there was, so we had one recently, a tree fell on the shed. So it was a, insurance claim. So you got to remember that people often need a catalyst. 80% of our customers have a catalyst behind why they need junk removal now, here and now today. Only 20% are the, hey, you sick of fucking looking at this shit, right? Kind of conversations.
Did you make your site, or did you have somebody pay? Did you pay someone to make it for you?
I don't do shit when it comes to marketing, right? I make decisions. That's what I do. So the branding, the site, the fonts, the colors, all that shit done third party. So
what'd you use? You found like a Fiverr or something, or?
Fuck no, I'm not fucking cheap. I don't have a cheap brand. I'm not a cheap guy. So no, I hired a no shit legit marketing company with a really good graphic design side. I'm not happy with the results of the website. So the website's getting continually worked on. They're really good at design, not great at website building. But no, I don't Fiverr shit. Because again, if I'm going to come out and say, hey, I'm going to be one of the top tier junk removal companies, I'm not going to go into it with shit branding. And I'm not saying you can't get it done on Fiverr, but there's a lot more hand holding that gets involved. And again, I said from the top, when it comes to 6 buckets of business, not me. I was part of a franchise for years because I didn't want to deal with marketing. Now, they also sucked at fucking marketing. They just had a fucking bulldog and inconsistent brand standards, right? So that didn't fucking work either. So what I've learned over time is have a strong brand, the brand itself, have it mean something, and then make sure that it works in all aspects and be consistent. So when I bought Camo Crew this year after my non-compete, I did not like the brand. It wasn't functional, right? So what I mean by that is the logo itself was not functional, where it would be displayed very well in black and white or in single color shots or whatever, right? Also, there wasn't brand standards, brand colors, all these things. So it started with a logo, and we just did an entire rebrand. And now, like the other day when we were going to go get coach done for our guys, they're like, hey, we're going to put names on them on patches. And our GM's like, oh, we should do cursive. I really like cursive. And all I did is reply to the email to our marketing company. I'm like, we don't have fucking cursive in our brand standards. We already made a decision. This is the brand standards. He's like, oh, I didn't even realize that. I'm like, cool. We have two approved fonts, and neither one of them are cursive. Right? It's about now being disciplined. I remember there's a realtor years ago that had this flyer that I was looking at, and the flyer had, I didn't see it because I don't fucking know, but our in-house graphic designer at the time saw it. There was 17 different fonts on one flyer. So that's a combination of font, color, bold, italicized, whatever. 17 different combinations in one 8.5 by 11 or 11 by 17. 11 by 17 flyer, 17 different combinations of fonts. I was like, that's fucked, right? Because they had like the red, white, black colors, right? Then you put in bold, italicized. Then you put in multiple fonts, 17 different combinations on one fucking flyer. Right? I'm like, Jesus. Of course, I didn't see that. I was like, I don't know all the words spelled right. Like, that's all I fucking know. Right? We have 2 fonts. And one's the primary and one's the secondary. That seems like a good fucking idea. Hell, when I was with the franchise, they changed their name. It went from company name Junk Removal company name Junk Removal and Hauling, right? And then it was ampersand, and then it was the word and then it was get rid of both of it, and then it was just company name Junk Removal, and then it went back to company name ampersand Hauling. And it's like, you're creating brand confusion, right? If you look at the top brands in this space, 800 Got Junk has not changed their fucking name to the best of my knowledge since 87 when they started. They are 800 Got Junk. That's their entire name, right? Even now when people don't use phone numbers, they are still 800 Got Junk. Junk King. They don't use the word removal. College Hunks has done some rebranding. So College Hunks Hauling Junk was their original name. And then they were College Hunks Hauling and Moving. I don't even know what their latest whatever fucking name is. Here, now it says college hauling junk is what the first thing that pops up. But I know on their trucks I've seen moving and storage, moving and hauling. Yeah, now here I got, so I got college hauling junk and moving, which I don't think that's a clunky ass fucking name. So whatever. The point is, find a brand and stick with it. Yeah, so maybe that's it now. It's college hauling junk and moving. And whatever. That's fine. I mean, it is what it is. Yeah, I mean, their brand is, the key is having a consistent brand, and that's what franchises are supposed to be really good at, and then they aren't. So the beautiful thing you can do as an individual owner operator, and I do this is, right, and this comes from my background, is I take the best parts of all three worlds I know. I know corporate America, I know the military, and I know small business. So, for example, in corporate America, whether it's a franchise or even my time worked at Waste Management, now WM, they got rid of the Waste Management, they're just WM, or UPS or Best Buy, they're consistent with their branding. They're consistent with their KPIs. They're consistent with their training, right? So I'm going to take that part because that's all really good stuff, right? And I'm going to take the military. Military is good at leadership, adaptability, fucking getting shit done, right? I fucking love those parts of the military. I'm going to take the best parts of small business, which is, loyalty to the customer, loyalty to your local population, loyalty to your employees, taking extra time, making shit up as you go. We'll take all that. And I'm going to build this beautiful business based on all those things. And I'm not even going to talk about the things that they're not good at, because there are things that corporate America, the military, and small business aren't good at. So we're not even going to talk about it. Same with you as the police department. I'm sure there's some really good things that you learned in law enforcement over the years, like IPC skills, how to communicate with people, how to have a presence, how to write reports, right? But then there's things that the police department isn't good at. So let's not bring those not good things to our business.
When did you start to come to like this transition where, you were turning from side hustle to like a legitimate business, and you started thinking about, oh, we only have 2 funds. You started thinking about all these different,
when I was part of the franchise organization, I'm like, hey, this doesn't make sense. Why is this company that's a franchise allowing franchisees to lower the brand? And then they hired a marketing company at one point. I was part of this larger group. I was part of this. I had a venture capitalist, and they had a marketing person. I learned a lot from her about what was supposed to happen, right? And then I learned what not to do, and so then I made a point to implement that when I took over Camo Crew this year. Like, okay, these are things you don't fucking do per the book of marketing, right? And some things that mostly came to Brand Standards, Brand Bible, right? And you think about it, and it's like, okay, well, like even the Marines, when the Marines went away from the few, the proud, like that was a fucking huge deal because that's been their slogan for 50 years, right? Like the Army changes their slogan every 15, 20 years, whatever it is. Like the Army, it was be all you can be, right? That's the Army I grew up on. And then I joined the Army. It was the Army of One, which I didn't even know what that meant, but it meant officers, non-commissioned officers, and enlisted soldiers. Didn't even know that, right? And now it's Army Strong, right? So they've evolved their brand, but the Marine Corps never changed their brand. And then when they did a couple of years ago, it was like, yeah, no, we don't like this. We want tried, tested, true. Like Alka-Seltzer is the same fucking brand that they've had since forever, right? Like Drop Fizz Fizz or whatever it is, or Drop Fizz. Like it's Alka-Seltzer. The shit ain't changing. You got fucking mutt gut. You fucking take some Alka-Seltzer and don't shit your pants. Like that's the brand, And then some companies are consistently changing their brand. But I would argue if your fucking brand works, don't change it. There's some companies that are continually rebranding to because it's either not working or B, they're keeping up with the times. It's one thing to evolve, but if you're changing your brand after 5 years, probably not great. Like McDonald's, if you look at the evolution of McDonald's, like every 5 to 10 years, they change the logo, but it's still the golden arches.
Yeah.
Right? Or it was I'm loving it. I don't know what their slogan is now. right? But like it evolves, but it's not like this complete fuck. They don't change the name of McDonald's. It's McDonald's. You know, they did the health kick for a while, then they went back to the basic menu. I think salads are back. I don't fucking know. But it's still McDonald's. It's still the Golden Arches. I don't see the Golden Arches ever going away. I don't see, BK, remember Burger King? It was BK for a while. I guess I call it BK. If Burger King ain't getting rid of the Whopper, right? Arby's is interesting because they were the not hamburger joint, and now they got a Wagyu burger. I saw when I was watching the Packers game this weekend. And it's all about whatever. We have the meats. That's their branding, right? They probably run on that for the last 5-7 years, whatever it's been. So you got to be consistent, and you got to have your brand. Like, what's the name of your company right now?
So it's 3 Dubs Hauling and Removal LLC.
What does the 3 Dubs stand for? What is that?
So 3 Dubs as in what, when, and where hauling. But what, when, and where hauling was already taken. So I had there was this dumb idea that, when you know how you call Buffalo Wild Wings B-Dubs, I was thinking 3 Dubs.
Yeah.
But one thing for me was just get started. If I rebrand later, then so be it. But I just wanted to get started. But now I'm thinking, now you got me shit, I should just keep it.
It doesn't matter. So do you know why B-Dubs is called B-Dubs?
Because no, I don't.
There you go. See, we all call it B-Dubs or BW3s, right? We call it BW3s here because it used to be Buffalo Wild Wings and Wraps or Rex, referring to a sandwich.
Yeah.
So we call it BW3 here in the Midwest. So I type in BW3. First thing is Buffalo Wild Wings. I'm going to look up the fucking why is it called that.
Yeah, I would have never, I've never heard BW3.
So we call it BW3s. I'm gonna look here real quick. 1993. Oh, here, yeah. So it's still known as here. It is known as. Hence, it's called Buffalo Wild Wings. Originally, Rec. That's what it was. Originally known as Buffalo Wild Wings and Rec. Couldn't remember if it was Wrap or Rec. Rec referring to the sandwich. So yes, its nicknames are B-Dubs or BW3. Right here on the Wikipedia, and we gotta fucking trust Wikipedia. But
Yeah.
So I still call it BW3. Like you said, B-Dubs. I know what you're talking about, obviously. But I would say, oh yeah, let's go with BW3. And people would be like, why? Yeah. So you don't even know that. So BW3, that's what we call it in the Midwest.
Yeah,
don't know why.
Yep. I've always
I don't know why. B-Dubs, yeah. So I know why. I don't know why we call it BW3 and y'all call it B-Dubs.
Yeah.
There you go. So there you go. There's a brand, right? Buffalo Wild Wings and Rex. They don't even make the sandwich. I don't even know if they need a Rex sandwich anymore. Right?
Yeah.
So there's a brand that it stuck. It worked. So yeah, with your 3 Dub, the challenge I see, what, where, and why, that tells me nothing. And again, I'm not a marketing guy. You got to lean in on something, whether it's police, like Fire Dogs. Fire Dogs is a junk removal company exclusively offered to firefighters. And one of the guys that's in that is an Air Force vet down in Houston. Fucking cool dude. I met him at the JunkCon, the JRA conference earlier this year. Cool fucking dude. And I've seen them before. So they're Fire Dogs. And then dogs spelled DAWGS. And they're like, well, why are you Fire Dogs? Well, because we're all part-time junk removal, full-time fire. You're like, oh, that's awesome. It's something, right? College Hunks is false fucking advertising. Them jokers look just like fucking me and you.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I think it initially started out as college guys, but then it, obviously.
Correct. Correct. Because they were down in Tampa as college hunks, and it was like, oh, yeah, I have these good-looking young dudes with fucking muscles and tans fucking take care of you, whatever. And then they were on Shark Tank years ago, like season 2 or some shit, or 1. I mean, it was very early in Shark Tank. They had College Hunks hauling junk, and then they had a sister company they started, which was College Foxes packing boxes. And there's going to be their packing company that complemented their moving company. And that fizzled like a motherfucker. Didn't go anywhere. So, anyways, you can have a great brand, but if it's a shitty service, whatever. And also I think it was Cuban. Well, if it would have been Cuban, it wouldn't have been season 1. But whatever. Talk about the liability of putting young, attractive college girls into people's houses. And again, like packing and moving companies are a thing. I've seen them for years, but yeah, when you brand it as with a sexual innuendo,
yep,
it's just it is what it is. I mean, you're inviting potentially unnecessary conversations. But again, that's why Twin Peaks, Hooters, they're in business for a reason. Well, God bless.
So then when I started, yeah, like you said, I just wanted to get going, and everything I kept, because ultimately I was thinking, okay, if I'm going to be operating in multiple states, I'm going to have something that's not taken really anywhere else. So that's what I was thinking, and so I stuck with this and started rolling. But like you said, that's over time. As I'm learning now, okay, it's not really, there's no real selling points to that. So okay, maybe I'll do a rebrand, but I don't want to keep rebranding, and then people that are trying to find me from before.
The sooner you do it, correct. The sooner you do it, the better, right?
Yeah.
But you got to figure out who the fuck you are first, right? What is your unique value prop? So, for us, for example.
One thing for me is I do ultimately, like, my biggest thing is, if it's recyclable, I'm gonna make sure that, it gets recycled, the reusing, like you said, pretty much rebrand, reuse, everything you can, where we're trying to keep, because, you go to this dump and you see just things just being dumped and you're like, what the fuck are we doing almost, So any chance I can try to reuse or resell or anything,
Yeah. So this is where I'll make recommendations, right? Data-driven decisions. If I was you, right, I'll always, on a recommendation, I always start with, if I was you, because I understand your position now. If I was you, I'd hire a third-party marketing company to develop your brand. If you're going to say, no shit, I'm doing this thing, that's what I would do. Now, if it's cost prohibitive right now, then go get more fucking money, right? Either go bang more jobs or get a loan or be willing to invest, right? But you already said, I want to be in multiple states. If you're thinking big, you got to have a strong brand day one. Even with Camo Crew junk removal, right? We didn't name it after the owners. We didn't name it after a geographic location. From the day that it was started back then, it had the positivity and flexibility to go somewhere.
Yeah.
I took it over. I didn't change the name. I'm like, cool. I changed over the logo because I didn't like the logo. But we're Camo Crew, right? And we could even we don't even have to be junk removal. We could be Camo Crew carpenters, right? Anything.
Yeah.
The idea behind even the name Camo Crew was we want people to be like, yep, that's my crew, right? So even in Milwaukee, like we have the Brewers and it's the Brew Crew, right? And a lot of the branding the Brewers have the last couple of years is our crew or that's my crew or something like that, right? So leaned in a little bit on that, and we could do stuff there, like Camo Crew and the Brew Crew, whatever, right? Like there's potentials and opportunities there over time. My thing was with Crew was that these are your guys, because you'll often see that in our reviews, like, oh yeah, my team did this or my team did that. And it's like we want to really embrace that.
So you use a local marketing agency that you found?
Yeah, we did for that. We've since moved on to a different marketing agency because, again, like I said, they were really good at the branding. I like the work they did on the branding. Yeah. They did not meet my expectations past that. Mm-hmm. And you can finding local marketing companies, swing a fucking cat and you'll hit 100 of them. So it's a question of, which company is going to understand you and your brand the best. I'd be more than willing to fucking set you up with, and make an introduction to our marketing company. But actually, I don't know if they would take the job because they only do Milwaukee-based companies because they lean in on being local. But dude, if you go to a couple networking events, if you put up on Facebook right now, hey, I want to rebrand, I'm looking for a marketing company, you'll get fucking tons of people, right? That's a really good way, especially since you don't have a business presence. That's a great way of starting it.
What I was gonna say. Yeah, I mean, so that's one thing I've been working on is, obviously, trying to do as many jobs as I can to get the funding, but also building the business credit side so I can go ahead and get myself a big loan to do the things I need to do,
That takes years. It's gonna take years. It does. So if that's your goal to build the business up to get a loan, that takes years. So that ain't, that does not happen soon. The best thing you do is have a solid business plan and a relationship with a banker that will, go out on a limb and, get you a credit card for $25,000 or more.
Yeah.
That's, you got to be in business minimum 3 years before your DUNS number even matters. And typically you got to have 3 full years of financials to a bank. That takes a long time. That is a slow endeavor. Not saying you can't do it. It's a slow grind going that way. Your best way of doing it is quitting the job, committing full time, generate the revenue, and buy at strategic points.
Well, I have you had somebody on a few weeks ago, and I'm pretty much in the process of doing the same thing as him. We just signed a new contract in the DC government, so basically we're going to get this giant retro check from the past years, and we did so much overtime, obviously, because all the protests and stuff like that. So I'm going to use that large retro check and cash out my retirement and just take.
There you go. Correct.
Go all in, and that'll be
correct.
what I need to get everything rolling. But in the meantime,
Correct.
it's just kind of learning, rolling with the punches, making the dumb choices, and seeing what I can.
The choices, they're not done, right? It's a choice that does or does not work out, and you do or do not learn from it. It's choice.
Yeah.
So, and this is where Casey and I are looking to possibly put out a program for junk removal startups, so we can tell you, okay, if you have this money, this is how you execute on it. This is how you spend on it. Because that's a multi-hour endeavor to figure out how to prioritize your cash flows from day one.
Yeah.
So that's something you can follow with Casey or me about once you get there. What timing wise, when do you plan on quitting the department?
So we're waiting on the retro check. It should be, everything's hurry up and wait. So it's probably going to be mid-January and I'll be gone.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, my recommendation there is wait till the fucking spring breaks. But then again, if you quit mid-January, that gives you, a month or two to ramp up getting ready for spring. That's actually even better. So, yeah.
I would like to go ahead and start with, if I can, do what I can to get to 2,500, because what I would like is, as an additional, obviously junk removal was kind of slow in the wintertime, is to put a plow on my truck and do some snow removal.
It makes more sense to take that time to build your fucking business. Take all that time to build your business. Don't doing snow removal does not get you closer to doing junk removal. Doesn't. Cash isn't the problem.
Yeah.
So don't go chasing dollars when that's not the issue. It's a distraction.
So you don't do snow removal in the wintertime? You strictly...
No, I don't know. No. Every minute I'm doing snow removal, I'm not doing junk removal. I'm in junk removal. I'm not in snow removal. The reason why landscapers do junk removal is because there's no grass to cut. I can still do junk removal in the winter. I just have to hustle differently to get it. So, with respect to time, I do have a 12 o'clock I got to get to.
Okay.
All right.
I appreciate your time, sir.
Yeah. All right. Appreciate it, man. Thank you.